Dear families, welcome to our farmhouse. It is nice that you visit us. It's time for a coffee, so you can get coffee here. A message of God. We want to hear a message of God. And perhaps you think, oh, it's nice here. It's very peaceful, and in this peaceful surrounding we can hear very well the message of God. But it is not as peaceful as it seems to be. This has nothing to do with Eva and me, so we too are very peaceful, but there are also other friends of us, or not really friends, who disturb us. In the morning we wanted to start to enter a Zoom conference, and we prepared our computer very thoroughly. 1 hour before I started, did everything and so. And then, half an hour before the start of the conference, I said, okay, I will restart the computer in order that there's no problem there. And then I pressed restart, and then it did not go down. And after a while, the screen was black. And then it was very black, and then I tried to start, and the program said, no, we don't start, nothing to do. You can repair, you should press repair. Okay, then we have a second computer.
My computer, we started my computer, it works very well.
And then, then we wanted to enter Zoom, and but the computer didn't enter internet. It was not possible. No, just not. So at the end we did it with our iPhone. We got connection and it was quite well. And what is the message? It's a message of Sister Doria she gave on a few days ago when she stood before Adoration Church, or Church of Trinity in Schönstadt. She said, okay, we have to be sure, we have to trust. It's God will win. Victory of God, she said. So, we are winners, but our computers didn't work. And immediately after the conference, it worked properly. So, you see, it's not as peaceful as it seems to be. But we live in this world, and we have to trust victory of God. And here's a message to you. And we heard you worked to get out this message. You tried to ask a question, what gifts of God did we get? And we ask you to look in all possible fields to find those gifts. And then we said, those gifts will form a kind of puzzle, a picture. And this picture has a message of God. So we don't know whether this picture is complete, and perhaps it's good to continue also with other people to collect more gifts of God, to understand this picture better. But anyway, God talks to us, God has a message for us.
This morning we got a message from God, and we talked together. This message was, be patient. I will win. As God say, I will win.
At least try to be patient.
we tried, yes. And the second message I got, a personal message, is a letter from God, and this letter is sitting here.
So now we have 2 letters, we have to wait a little bit to read our letters.
Yeah. Also there are gifts from God, personal gifts, and gifts for a community. And we can ask what we are for, and we can ask what is a contribution of Schönstadt to church and society.
So perhaps you can read it when you look to your picture. contribution of Schönstadt to society, to church. Recently we asked this question to a group of people in Austria, and it was occasionally preparation for World Family Days in Dublin. And so the question was, in what way Schönstadt families should present themselves, and what are the main points, or what is important. And we made a brainstorming, and 50% of the answers in this brainstorming was, the task of Schönstadt, contribution of Schönstadt, is to connect grace and life. To connect grace and life, to connect natural life with supernatural life. Some people say, yes, to connect heaven and earth, that they come together. So this was in this group, in different words, the meaning, therefore, is Schönstadt. This is the contribution of Schönstadt. This connection of grace and life as a most important message of Schönstadt. All testimonies we hear about Father Kentenich tell that he lived both in the natural and supernatural world. So it was one world he lived in, and he lived always in life and in grace. But how can we do it? We are no Kentenichs, so we try to learn from him, but how to do? And we get a very good help from a pupil from Father Kentenich, Father Tilman Bella. Perhaps you remember the book of We Help Each Other into Heaven. And he describes in this book how we can manage it, and how we can manage it, especially as a married couple. So how can we do it together, help each other to live in nature and supernature? We made a lot of lectures based on this book, and now we only want to state a few sentences out of this book to get some feeling how we can do it.
One sentence: the connection of everyday life with the divine is decisive.
So for our relation as a couple, we rejoice in what the other is, and we say that to each other. This creates a family in which positive thoughts determine coexistence. Positive thoughts.
We never stay longer without a secure connection with God.
To live in both worlds. Christianity is a religion of salvation. This is not a religion of the perfect, but a religion of children who trust in the love of their Father.
We breathe in the love of God and exhale our own poverty.
And the last sentence out of this book, just to come in the thinking of Father Bella. We take the individual event and see the God of our lives behind it. So Father Kentenich tells also, we try to make the world transparent to God. Everything we recognize, everything we see, we try to make transparent to God. So in the camp here we practice it, what we told, this hint of Father Bella.
We take the individual event and see the God of our lives behind it.
So we take some time.
In the evening perhaps, when it is silent, and we talk together as a couple, what were the gifts of God in this day.
So a day with a lot of events and a lot of things happened, we take out one event and look and try to see God of our life behind. So this helps us to break this high speed, to slow down especially in camp, you want to slow down. So take one event and say, oh yeah, that's you. Thank you. Yeah, now a thunderstorm came and it's raining now, so we continue under the roof. We have experiences from our meetings from last year. For example, Father Kentig tells that everyday sanctity is one of the basic principles of Schönstatt. To be Christ not only during Holy Mass on Sunday, but also on all days during the week.
One time in a meeting in Vilnius, we worked out that we are co-workers of God. What does it mean?
Co-worker of God.
Yeah. We give God the last responsibility for our work. Many people told us later this changed their work. To be convinced I am a co-worker of God.
We live in the world of daily work, and at the same time in the world of God, everyday sanctity. And we give God the last responsibility. So our work and God is really connected. And this is also a message of God. God tells us, yes, you are my co-worker. And this changed the feeling of life. Father Kentenich is convinced that Schönstatt is an initiative of God. And he's convinced that he should in his life overcome this splitting. In his life, show by his life that it's possible to overcome the splitting. He is a daily life, there's no need of God. And here, at special times, we live our faith. Yeah, as you see, we had to change our place because outside, under the roof, it was very strong noise from the rain. We didn't expect this, so now we continue in our kitchen. The idea we want to tell you now is that in some way, Father Kentenich felt as a follower.
Yeah, Jesus often says to fishermen, follow me. And so Father Kentenich tried to live as a follower of Christ. And he says to us, follow me, and together we follow Jesus. Jesus came into our world of humans by initiative of God Father, to show how to live both in heaven and on earth.
And why is it difficult to be a follower of Jesus in this respect? Sister Gertraud gave an example in the video My Trust. Perhaps you have seen it. And she tells her experience as a student.
Ich habe als junge Frau Theologie studiert.
I studied theology when I was a young woman.
Ich habe sehr gern studiert.
I liked it very much.
Aber da gab es die einzelnen Fächer, die einzelnen Disziplinen.
But there were different subjects and disciplines.
Dogmatik, Kirchenrecht, Kirchengeschichte, Exegese.
Dogmatic, history of church and...
Exegese, ja. Also diese Fächer, Theologie.
A lot of subjects within theology.
Und jeder hat nur seine Sichtweise gehabt.
And every teacher only has his own view to this subject he teaches.
Die anderen waren ihm egal.
And the other were not so important.
Und bei Pater Kentenich war das anders.
And I learned, Father Kentenich, it was not the same for him.
Er hat immer versucht, die ganze Wirklichkeit zu beschreiben.
He always tried to describe the complete reality.
Vom pädagogischen Aspekt,
Pedagogical aspects,
psychologischer Aspekt,
psychological aspects,
soziologischer Aspekt.
sociology.
theologischer
Theology,
Aspekt, philosophischer
philosophy.
Aspekt. Das war immer eine Ganzheit, ein ganzheitliches Denken.
It was always thinking of the whole.
Ich glaube, ich habe bei Pater Kentenich mehr für mein Leben gelernt als in der Theologie.
I think I learned more from Father Kentenich than in theology for my personal life.
So it is difficult to explain the organic teaching of Father Kentenich to somebody who is specialist in only one subject. We heard from priest, too much sentiment, too much feeling. We heard from psychologist. We heard from psychologist. Too much faith. Professional psychologists doesn't need God. We heard from pedagogists. Too much personal relation. There is in the persons is a mechanic thinking. It separates life and idea. So it is a problem to explain. Our answer: we try to live and not to explain. Life inflamed life.
In this time now we live, we feel the burden to live family. It becomes heavier, a burden. This Corona time, it has not passed, it goes on. Okay, the quarantine time has passed, but now the restrictions are going on and they will remain for some time. So it's a burden, but and we are exhausted. Therefore, in the camp, it's a good opportunity to relax a little bit. We hope you can manage it to relax. But this Corona time is not only a burden; it's only a time for discovery, and we discovered things which became more valuable. For example, we discovered the importance of our home, of our house.
Many people renewed in this time the house, made repairs they always like to do. And we, as a Schönstadt family, we discovered new the value of our home shrine. Our home shrine, the place where heaven and earth touched each other.
Father Kentenich remembered later it was difficult, and it was the most difficult decision of his life in year 1914 to believe that this unused small chapel over there could become a spiritual center, first for his pupil and later for many people also all over the world. Sister Doria tells in front of chapel in Schönstadt.
So we can invite her to come into our home. Look, in all difficulties we have, and look, the problems, but just be with us. Bring us your child and shine in our home. Bring the sun into our home and help us as a mother and the queen we need in our days. We try to be good Christians, and this is something the covenant of love means. We try to be good Christians and work for the kingdom of Christ. And what does she do? She promises us that she will change us to real, modern, holy Christians. She will be with us, protect and help us, and form us to new persons. She changed our family life, when she comes, something is different. We can trust her, but also she trusts us. She and Father Kentenich are convinced that we can do great things in the covenant of love with her.
So in 1914, the question for Father Kentenich was, could it be God wants me to invite Blessed Mother here to settle here in this chapel? And later, in year 1963,
In the year 1963, a woman who was desperate of the chaotic family life asked Father Kentenich, could it be that I could invite Blessed Mother to settle in my flat in a home shrine, just as she did 1914 in Schönstadt?
Father Kentenich, just do it. And now, year 2020, in Holy Week, 5 families spoke on their experience with Home Shrine. You have seen perhaps these videos. So the message of God. He wants us to overcome the splitting of faith and life. Father Kentenich did it by talking and even more by living. When he met people, they got a new feeling of life. Father Kentenich tried to give them the experience by his person, the love of God. God loves you. As recently a sister, 90 years old, told us. Another witness we heard from a young woman who visited when Father Kentenich was in Milwaukee, the Holy Mass, and after Holy Mass she went out of the church and she said, oh, I didn't understand everything what he told. Perhaps she didn't understand nothing, I don't know. I didn't understand everything, but my children, I will tell, I have met a man who seemed to come direct from God. So this was the impression he gave, and this was the mission of his life. Today we collected gifts of God. And one of the greatest gifts we observed is that, out of our observation, many men became by contact with Father Kentenich new fathers. And this discovering of their own fatherhood and living the fatherhood changed their life and changed also their relation to the woman, changed their matrimony. We think this is an important message of God, and perhaps God wants to spread this message all over the country and perhaps also to other countries. Message of God. Live new fatherhood, that people can experience me as a loving father. But
What happened recently? A historian, a lady, found in Vatican archives an accusation of 5 ladies, former Sisters of Mary. They asserted mental and sexual abuse of Father Kentenich. In other words, he was not a good father, or not always.
And she stated it clearly as her personal opinion. This man was not always a good father, as people in church should tell he was. And this is we call it, it's like an error direct in the heart of Schönstadt. And exactly in the heart. Because this message of Father Kentenich, I want to show you by my life that God is a loving Father, was by this error is it destroyed. And a second arrow goes in direction to church. Because when you follow this process against Father Kentenich, you will find that church officials treated Father Kentenich not in a correct way. And Father Kentenich didn't want to blame the church, so he doesn't like to look a failure at the church, because he loves church and he wanted to show the love of church. A short example showing the love of Father Kentenich, and that he really wanted to prevent blaming the church. A sister of merit told us that she studied in Milwaukee when she was young, and she made a thesis on educational principles, and in thesis they used ideas from Father Kentenich, and one professor noticed it and said, "Oh, where do you have it from?" And she said, "Yeah, it's from my community, from Sisters of Merit. Where is it from? Who is behind?" And after some time she said, "Yeah, it's a priest, Father Kentenich." And this professor was only a short time in the University in Milwaukee, and he said, "I'm 2 days more here, and please manage it that I can meet this, or give me the address where to go to. I want to talk with him." And then the sister said, "Yeah, no, he's in Milwaukee, yeah, just 10 kilometers or 10 miles away. Please manage a meeting with him." And this sister told this Father Kentenich, and Father Kentenich said, "Don't go to this professor again, don't talk with him, because he's a very famous man, he's well known in the church, he has a very good name. And when he realizes what happened, all church will know it, what happened, and I don't want it. I don't want to blame the church." Yeah, the short sentence in German.
Bringen. Dieser Satz, der ging mir sehr tief. Es könnte der Kirche schaden. Und das zu hören vom Vater im Exil.
And now, what to do now? Just now a few words from us on history, and then the question, okay, what are the consequences for us, and what consequences did Father Kentenich take? History. The problem is that Father Kentenich was sent to exile in the year 1951. He got a piece of paper: "You have to leave your movement and go to Milwaukee, United States." No reason why this was. It was just, you have to leave. And so he left. And we know about what was behind, what was the reason. There were three reasons. Father Kentenich brought new elements in the church. So the faith of 2000 years, or experience of 2000 years, but a new way to communicate to people. And this new way was fatherhood. We just explained it quite often and deep. The other was he used psychology, because he knew he had to reach people, and he has to have a psychologist know-how. And he noticed that the usual psychology which was taught in universities, based on theories of Freud in Austrian. And he said, this is not the right way. It's not in this psychology, human is not image of God, but human is something. So he said, for Freud, human is just steered from passions. And Kendrick said, no, human is an image of God. And he developed their own psychology he used, and you know the application of this psychology in academy. And but Church didn't realize it, said it was a new psychology and not Freud. And then he used a modern language. So the old tradition of Church and everything valuable in our faith, he tried to tell it to people in a normal language, not in a special church language. So this was also dangerous. So Church said, this man is dangerous because this is new, and yeah, it seems to work, but it's a real danger. And so it's better until he makes some problems in the church with that other takes his teachings. It's better to remove him. Okay. Then after 14 years, he was rehabilitated. We don't want to tell the story now, but 65, he came to Rome, and all these decrees were put away, no more guilty. And he had an audience at the Pope, or the sixth, and he came back to Schönstatt. Problem? In the beginning, there was no clear paper what he did and what he was guilty. And at the end, there was no paper, excuses, we were wrong, and it was nothing. So, and now this historian says, okay, where is the paper? Where is the paper where it's written that that he is not guilty? So, where's the paper which proves his innocence? It went in this way that the Church just said, okay, go back, it's okay, yeah. Without telling that they did something wrong. And then, 1985, there was a 100th anniversary of the birth of Father Kentenich, and it was a very big celebration in Rome, and the Pope made a speech. And this speech is very important for us, because time before there was conversations between Schönstatt officials and Vatican, Cardinal Ratzinger, and Schönstatt said, okay, tell clearly that Father Kentenich is innocent. And Cardinal Ratzinger wrote, yeah, in year 73 we have given the nihil obstat. This is a permission that a process of beatification can start, and this is enough. Okay, so what is really a good message for us is a speech of John Paul II in 1985.
So John Paul II is spoken as a holy man, and here he knew many things from Father Kentenich and from Schönstatt. He said to the people who are on the big place for a special audience, you are called to participate in that grace which your founder has received, and subsequently to offer the same grace to the entire church.
This means you have to follow your founder, and you should try to do the same, and he gives you his charisma.
An authentic Marian spirituality
Leads.
An authentic Marian spirituality leads to a deep love for the Church. With his own life, your founder bore witness to this truth.
And we will give you an example shortly.
With joy and gratitude, I accept the renewal of these promises, and I ask you further. Use all your strength that these great aims became reality.
You know, we should use our strength that it becomes reality. It's good. So for us this is an important document because John Paul II had all information, all documents are known at this time, and he spoke clearly that we should follow our founder, and this is our desire. Therefore we are here, therefore we talk. How reacted Father Kentenich? So we could tell a lot of things, but we just want to ask Sister Gertraud to tell her observation and her decision.
Da habe ich sein Leben kennengelernt.
Then I knew I got information on his life.
Und da ist er für mich glaubwürdig geworden.
And he became believable.
Vor allem die Zeit, wo die Kirche ihn nicht verstanden hat.
Especially in that time the church didn't understand him.
Und sie hat ihn ins Exil geschickt.
And they sent him to exile.
Und sie haben ihm nicht mehr zugehört. Er konnte nicht erklären.
And they didn't listen to him and they couldn't explain.
Und es war 14 Jahre.
And it was 14 years.
Und in dieser Zeit hat er sich gewünscht,
And in this time he had a strong wish.
auf seinem Grab soll einmal stehen,
On this sarcophag there should be written,
Dilexit Ecclesiam. Er hat die Kirche geliebt.
Dilexit Ecclesiam, he loved the church.
Das ist eine Liebe zur Kirche, die bereit ist zu leiden
This is a love,
oder Opfer zu bringen.
this is a love to church who is willing to suffer.
Da ist er für mich glaubwürdig geworden.
And in this wish of him, Dilexit Ecclesiam, he became believer. 2 years ago, a small group of Lithuanian families has been in this chapel and in the front of sarcophag, and they sung Lithuanian song. And now for us is a question, what do we have to do? What we not have to do is to get upset or to get excited on this. And it's also not to do that we defend Father Kentenich. I think what we have to do is to consider, yeah, there's a fight. And we have to decide what our contribution in this fight is. And I think our contribution is clear. It's just to continue with what we have planned and what we feel that we can do. In the beginning of this camp, Sister Daria told us in front of Church of Trinity that this church was built as a sign of gratitude, a sign of trust, and a sign of victory of God. And so this is what we need now, and we hope we take it from this camp, this gratitude and trust and the sureness God will win, the victory of God. And if we are sure of this trust, victory of God, then we don't have a problem. So, but for Father Kentenich, it was always so in a difficult situation. He said, oh no, I wonder in what way Blessed Mother will solve the problem. And he said, I always was quiet and I was never upset. So we wish you that all you did in this camp, that you can take it with you, with gratitude and with trust and with safety. God will win, the victory of God. And we thank you for all your contributions for your country and for Europe.